You are listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show, the only news and podcast in English about AS Cittadella. Hello everyone, welcome back to the CittaCalcioUsa show, episode number 142, coming to you on Thursday, September 19th. Cittadella getting a goalless draw against Catanzaro last weekend. The home winless streak continues for the Granata, that is now too many games to count without a home win. Their last win at home coming all the way back in January. We're going to talk about that game. Plus, they're getting ready for another game this upcoming Sunday against Mantova, the closest geographical rival, let's put it that way, to Cittadella this season, as we'll get to that in a little bit, but Mantova being the closest opponent to Cittadella. Then another break is on the horizon. Yes, that is right. There is another international break just around the corner. It is a lot closer than people think. So we're going to be getting you up to date on the world of Cittadella in this podcast. Before we start, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa and visit our website at CittaCalcioUsa.com for more information, news, articles, all that stuff about Cittadella at CittaCalcioUsa.com. Now, yes, so that last point I touched upon, there is an international break coming up fairly soon, maybe less than a month away, but this is always the part of the season where it kind of seems touch and go. You know, there's a September break, then there's club football. Then there's an October break, then there's club football. Then there's a November break, and then club football. Then after the November period, there should be a few months without any international stoppages until around March. And that's usually the last international break that stops the season. Let's put it that way. So still, this is a kind of a slow-ish start to the season, but we are already 5 games in to the season. Cittadella getting a 0-0 draw in their 5th match of the season against Catanzaro. A 0-0 draw that extends their winless home record to, I don't even know how many games it is. It's been so long since Cittadella has won at the Tombolato. Their last win at the Tombolato came in January. That was their first game of 2024. I'm just going to go count it right now to see how many games Cittadella has dropped at home. So it all started with the Sampdoria game back in January. So that's 1, Parma, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and going into the next season, 9, 10. That is now 10 games without a win at home for Cittadella. They really have an opportunity to go the entire 2024 with only one single home win. That's probably the worst case scenario. Luckily for them, they have a few more home games coming up, including next week against Frosinone. But all eyes are on the away trip to Mantova on Sunday. But before we get into those games, we want to catch you up on the last game against Catanzaro. If you listen to our Speaking Serie B program with Elia, who is a Spezia fan, if you listened to our program yesterday on the live show, you know that I talked a little bit about this match. It's an interesting one to call because when you look at the stats, even if you saw the game, you'd probably agree that it's just either side could have won this game. Even Cittadella. Cittadella had, I think, arguably the better chances. Catanzaro also had some dangerous chances, and none of them could be converted. Guarini said after the game in his press conference that a point was deserved. He felt like both teams missed opportunities, and he thought that a draw was deserved. And I could agree with that. I do think that there was an opportunity there for Cittadella to finally get that home win because they started the game really, really well. First 15, 20 minutes, I was certain that they were going to get a goal because I really liked the high press that Guarini said that he implemented in the first half of that game. Catanzaro kind of grew into the game a little bit, especially in that first half. They kind of worked their way out of the high press, and that was also as a result of Cittadella tired because that is a very demanding way of playing. But in that first 15, 20 minutes, you saw Catanzaro give up a lot of balls in the defensive half. Piliacelli, their goalkeeper, gave up a lot of balls. They were intercepting them in the attacking third, kicking it out of bounds as well. That goes as the Catanzaro center backs as well. And this was causing a lot of problems, and there resulted in chances for Cittadella. Amatucci hitting the crossbar in the first half off of a corner kick. That ended up, I believe, being tipped also onto the bar as well from Piliacelli, so he did get a hand on that. But towards the second half, I think the rhythm kind of slowed down a little bit. Like I said, this is probably as a result of Cittadella's demanding style of play. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of getting stuck in, high press. I think they kind of decelerated a little bit on that. And that's how we kind of got to this point as a stalemate between the two sides. Obviously, now thinking back on it, maybe you could argue that Catanzaro had the better chances. They missed one really good chance towards the end where I believe is their right back skying the ball. He was quite open on the far post. But, I think as for Cittadella, you could be okay with the point. It's not a horrible result. As you know, Catanzaro, we said that even though they had possibly, that's what we were saying, had what's the right word I'm looking for here? Maybe not as strong as last season under Viverini. Under Caserta, they still played the same style of play and still had some good players up there as well. And we're playing against a team like this. I think you got to take it. Guarini says, every point matters, and just keep adding those points to the point tally is what matters, and that's still 1 point closer to the Salvezza, to survival, and that's what Cittadella are aiming for, as they always are in this league as a club. I'm just gonna pull up some stats real quick, but that was kind of my take on the game. Cittadella tallying 13 shots compared to Catanzaro's 5. 4 shots on target for Cittadella, 2 on target for Catanzaro. Obviously, Cittadella hitting the woodwork on 1. That was Amatucci's header in the first half. By the stats, you could say that Catanzaro had a lot of possession, and from the eye test, that was definitely the case. They controlled most of the ball. They had most of the possession. But in football, as you know, that's not always guaranteed wins, and that's not always the entire case on who's the better team on the night. So once again, I say that Cittadella arguably had the better chances and should have won this match. And that's why you could possibly say that was 2 points dropped. Or from another point of it, getting another result, not losing at home. That was an important factor going into the season, not losing your home games and getting a result after the international break, where a lot of things could happen. Elan Castrati still not back from injury, so Luca Maniero had once again a very good game. That is the second straight clean sheet for him. And yeah, they got to take the point, and I think it was a deserved draw on that case. So going into some stats real quick, I just want to pull up. We're finally getting a few games in, so now I could really accurately kind of show these stats, and not after one game where it doesn't really tell us the full story. But interestingly, these last 3 seasons, all under Guarini, Cittadella has had 8 points after 5 games. That was their total last season. That was their total the year before. They are only better in 1 season under Guarini, and that was his first season, only by 1 point. So they're kind of at where Guarini has always been in during this type of season, where they've really been throughout the. I'm losing my words here, but they're kind of at the point where they were last season and the year before and even the year prior. So it's still, I still don't know where this team is going to finish, because if you recall the 2022-2023 season, Cittadella narrowly avoiding relegation on the final day. And then last season, they were in the playoffs for majority of that season, and they started with 8 points after 5 games. So a lot could happen. A lot could happen in this season and this time period. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But that's kind of where Cittadella stand at the moment in respective to the previous seasons. Serie B coming up here, match day 6 this weekend, but we're going to first recap a little bit of match day 5. Cesena getting a draw against Modena. Probably the biggest result, I'd say, was Brescia beating Frosinone 4-0 in Brescia. Now, Frosinone was a team that we expected to do very well this season, especially under Vivarini, who did well at Catanzaro last year. It still has not clicked for them yet. They're sitting at 3 points, 0 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses with a -5 goal difference. Only 3 points and 19th place to their name right now. So they were down 3-0 at halftime. So definitely not a very positive start for Frosinone there. We'll see what happens, but they could be like Spezia of last season, coming down from Serie A, kind of in heartbreaking fashion too. If you remember, they were relegated on the final day of last season against Udinese. Now kind of struggling early on in Serie B. Let's see what happens to them. Sampdoria is another team that's struggling too right now, losing 2-1 against Cosenza last Sunday. That puts them bottom of Serie B on 2 points, only 2 draws, 3 losses, and 0 wins so far. So was Pirlo the problem? Was he the issue for some struggle? We'll have to see. It's so interesting because Sampdoria, like we were telling in the preseason, they had Coda, they had Tutino, they had a lot of good players in their roster that you'd think they'd go into these playoffs positions, but still no wins, only 2 points in a really dire situation. Of course, it is 5 games, a lot of season to be played, and a lot could happen. So let's see, but definitely not a good start for the 2 teams, Frosinone and Sampdoria, who we expected to be up there fighting for the promotion spots early on. But Pisa, really strong opening. Once again, their appeal is still under investigation or undergoing. Next Wednesday, we should know a new appeal, the result from the what I don't even know what the court is called. There's so many courts in this Italy's system when it comes to these type of things. But the Federal Court of Appeals will meet next Wednesday, September 25th, to decide the results that happened in August between Cittadella and Pisa. Pisa's initial appeal was rejected, as you could recall from the previous podcast, was rejected by the sporting judge, and the Pisa have now turned to the Federal Courts of Appeal, and we should know by Wednesday. So what happens? So will they stay at 11 points, or will they get 2 extra points for a 3-0 automatic forfeit win by Cittadella, which would also see Cittadella lose that game and drop to 7 points on that. But currently they have 8. Even still without the automatic victory, Pisa are still in first place with 11 points, getting a good win in Salerno. Very impressive. 2-3 victory in Salerno, and Pippo Inzaghi possibly doing it again like he did with Benevento, like he did so well with Regina the year before they went bankrupt and went to Serie D. So let's see what happens in these next few months. It's a very exciting time. It's really, really good, and really happy that Serie B is back because we missed it throughout the summer. But before we kind of get into the match against Mantova, Cittadella's next match, I want to go over some of the games that are coming up, because I did mention that there's an international break sooner than you think. That is correct. That is after the October 5th game against Sassuolo at the Mappe Stadium. Cittadella only has 3 games in between then. That is this upcoming Sunday against Mantova. Then it's kind of a quick turnaround. They only have a few days of rest before Cittadella play at the Tombolato Friday against Frosinone. So that's Friday, September 27th. And then October 5th, the following week, I believe that's a Saturday, against Sassuolo at the Mappe. And then guess what? There's another international break. Following that will be at home against Cosenza, then away against Carrarese, home against Sampdoria, that's the midweek game, and then away at Palermo, home against Cesena, away at Bari, home against Juve Stabia, away at Spezia, and at home against Cremonese. So it's interesting to look ahead on these games. We always say that no game in Serie B is easy, and that's correct. That's never going to change. However, if you're looking at games that are definitely winnable by Cittadella's point of view, I think you got to look at this upcoming weekend against Mantova. I know they've won their previous 2 home games, but I think that's definitely a winnable game, as well as the following week at home against Frosinone. I don't know what Frosinone will do this weekend against Bari, maybe to jumpstart their season, but it's definitely going to be interesting. Sassuolo is a difficult game to play against. They did well in the Coppa Italia, still losing that game, Cittadella, if you recall, back in August. So we'll see what happens, but that might be a tricky game. Then the October to possibly mid-December, it's quite very hard running, let's say, for Cittadella, because there's definitely some games on there, the big matches, let's put it that way, that you probably look at it and say, man, this is going to be a really, really difficult game for Cittadella. My eyes definitely go to the game against Sampdoria at home, even though Sampdoria are struggling. You saw what they did last year, even though Cittadella were in a good place last year and Sampdoria were towards the bottom, they still ended up winning that game. Samp follow team everywhere, so that I expect the stadium is going to be full for that. That's going to be a difficult game. Then just a few days later, Cittadella makes their long away trip to Sicily to play Palermo on November 2nd. The exact date is not confirmed yet, but it's on that weekend. Then they return home. The last game before the November international break against Cesena. Cesena, we've said multiple times in this podcast that they are very good this season, and I believe they should stay up comfortably and are already causing a lot of concern and a lot of difficulty for a lot of teams in Serie B. Then after the international break, it is away against Bari, another long road trip down south. Even we'll see what Bari does, but the San Nicola is never an easy place to play. Then we got Juve Stabia at home. Juve Stabia showing very, very good performances in the beginning of the season, so that's going to be a difficult game. Spezia away in December. That's definitely going to be a hard one, just given how much improved Spezia are, and they've been playing really well at home so far. And then at home against Cremonese on December 14th. Cremonese, I've said it multiple times that I think they have one of the best rosters in Serie B, so I expect them to get their stuff together. They've had a little bit of a slow start, but I think they're going to be starting to get their stuff together by that time. So definitely a very difficult stretch of games coming for Cittadella, but I think there's definitely a lot of quote-unquote winnable games. Starting with this weekend against Mantova, then you got Frosinone. I think Carrarese away, that could be a win, as well as at home against Cosenza. But, Sampdoria at home, Palermo away, Cesena at home, Bari away, and then Juve Stabia at home. November is a very, very difficult month for Cittadella. Really, that Sampdoria game could technically be counted as a November game because that's right at the end of October. But, man, that is going to be one crazy 30 days or so for Cittadella, but we can't wait for that. But for now, we are focusing on this upcoming weekend, the game against Mantova, Sunday, September 22nd at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's a 3 p.m. local time on Sunday at the Stadio Danilo Martelli. Mantova winning their last 2 home games against Salernitana and Juve Stabia. So they've started... Oh, no, sorry. I take that back, because I was thinking of Mantova playing in Piacenza against Juve Stabia. That was a game where Juve Stabia won, and for whatever reason, I just thought that was Mantova. But that's the thing you get when you don't have the results right in front of you. You have to go to another tab. But here we go. Mantova, they did win their last 2 games at home in their newly renovated stadium after being promoted from Serie C, winning their games against Cosenza and Salernitana. So two difficult opponents to play against. Cosenza showing their strength against Sampdoria, and then Salernitana, obviously being Salernitana, is Cittadella lost against that team, so we all know too well. But Mantova did lose on the weekend against Bari. That was Bari's first win of the season, so very interesting stat to that. I haven't really watched Mantova play this season, so I can't really say any analysis, unfortunately, because anytime they've been playing, I've been watching Cittadella because they've been at the same time. But from their start, it's been, from the results standpoint, I think it's just been 50-50. The 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 7 points. That's pretty good for a newly promoted side to start the season. However, the losses against Bari, Juve Stabia, 2 teams that, maybe, I don't know, Juve Stabia has impressed us quite a bit in this start of the season, but the 2-0 loss against Bari was definitely a surprise for me. Even though Bari had been, difficult to play against in Bari, I still expected Mantova to at least come out there with a draw, but they didn't. So, man, I apologize for not having too much of a, what's it called? I don't have much analysis for, and I can't analyze these teams very well because I haven't really watched a lot of these games. A lot of these games have been on the exact same time as Cittadella. So it's also, after seeing these games, it's kind of learning more about these teams myself when I watch them play Cittadella. But what I could really say to you is that Mantova sitting in 12th place with 7 points, 6 goals scored, 7 conceded. I really don't know what to expect from this game. There's talks that Castrati could be back for this game. If not, I think it's really no issue for Cittadella because Maniero has been very good for the Granata in goal. But let's see what happens. It's a Sunday game. It's, like I said, the closest team geographically this season for Cittadella. As you know, Cittadella, the only team from Veneto this season in Serie B. So there's no away trip to Venezia. There's no away trip to Padova or Vicenza or Verona. The closest trip is actually Mantova. So I expect the Rabaltai ultra groups are going to be there in a lot of numbers. I know South Granata Club are going. They're organizing another trip. So if you get a chance to go, you should go. Support the team. Obviously, me saying that, I'm obviously not going to be there. But if you do get the chance, I encourage you to go and support the team in the stadium in Mantova. Because, once again, it is the closest game geographically for Cittadella, and the only away trips coming are going to be further than that. Especially when you look at the calendar in November, you got Palermo away, Bari away, 2 teams in the south, so that's a lot of travel. That's probably 2 plane rides to go. You can't really drive there. So support the team, support Cittadella, and yeah, go get them. I really don't know what else to say. I don't know what to expect from Mantova because I haven't watched them much. I can only really tell you what they've done by results, and but we've said multiple times that the results don't always tell the story. I mean, you could see Juve Stabia lost 2-1 or 3-1 against Palermo this week, but I heard they played really well and were kind of unlucky to lose that game. So who knows what's going to happen? That's kind of the beauty of this league, is that there's a surprise every weekend, and there's a lot of good quality players in every team. So I'm sure we're going to find that in both sides. But once again, Mantova playing Cittadella this Sunday, September 22nd at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. local time at the Stadio Danilo Martelli. Cittadella looking to continue their unbeaten run to 5 games without a loss at the Stadio Danilo Martelli against Mantova, a team where last time in Serie B, I forgot to mention this, last time in Serie B, this ended in a 6-0 win for Cittadella against Mantova. Their last meeting was in 2016, but their last Serie B meeting was ended in a 6-0 victory for Cittadella. And with that said, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for listening. to this episode of the CittaCalcioUsa show. If you like it, please like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa, and visit our website at CittaCalcioUsa.com for more information, news articles, all that stuff about AS Cittadella. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week for another episode. And as always, Forza Citta. Thank you for listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show. If you liked it, please share and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa. See you next time, and remember, Forza Citta.